Nice.
We're live, ladies. Oh, we're about to be live. Hello,
Mhm.
hello,
Great.
everyone. Come in, come in, come in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ladies of Social podcast. My name is Sada,
And my name is Christine.
and today we are discussing the challenges of being South Sudanese career women, navigating career balance, family growth here in the diaspora. And we have two special guests that we are going to introduce to you. We have Nuk, who has been on the show recently. She's actually was on our most recent show, and we also have Diana. We'll go ahead and start with Nuk. Nuk, you were on the last episode where we discussed what did we talk about last episode, y'all? I'm sorry. What was the name of the topic, Christine? I always forget.
Um,
Christine. Oh, I don't know if Christine can hear me. Christine, can you hear me? Oh, okay. I don't remember the name. What was the
Sorry,
name?
I'm muted. But I know we're talking about like we are our mother's wildest dreams. We're talking about
Yes.
career paths, balancing starting a family, and just what's expected of you as a woman in our
oh,
generation.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't talk
And
about navigating the 30s and things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. So Nuck joined us in that conversation. So go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Okay, I was trying to unmute myself, but but hi everybody. Good evening. Yes, I was part of the conversation about navigating womanhood, the pressures kind of our culture and how we move forward. But I'm Nok Noor Dwayne. I am based out of Washington D.C. Some of you that don't know my background, I am in D.C. because I went to Georgetown, so I love the D.C. area. Stayed here after college. Moved out for a little bit, lived in Massachusetts, where I did my master's in administration at Harvard. Have two young kids. I love basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball. I played college basketball. So right now, March Madness, I'm watching all the games. Very happy to be here to talk about navigating, well, or as a career woman. Currently, I am a cloud security technology executive with a firm here in DC. And so happy to talk because I want to bring more women into tech, particularly Black women and South Sudanese women. Thanks for having
No, absolutely. Yeah. And you also went to Harvard. That's something you leave out.
Absolutely.
me. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Which is amazing because I think you don't hear a lot of stories of South Sudanese in general, not even women, but in general, go into Ivy Leagues. Even though we know that they exist, we just don't often hear their stories. So we're excited to have you, and hopefully the women on the show will take a lot of your like advice and direction. And then Deanna, go ahead and introduce yourself. First time being on the show.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, for having me. Hi, everyone. So my name is Deanna, and I'm joining all of you here from Canada, Alberta. Um, yeah, so I've been following this series, and I just really been enjoying it, and took the opportunity to join into the discussion. Um, my background is in counseling, so I got my bachelor's degree in counseling. I'm not practicing right now, but that's the area that I went to school for. Also, I've done a lot of work with children, so I love working with kids and have been very interested in expanding my knowledge in that area. So yeah, so that's the general, and I'm really happy to be here with you, ladies.
We're
Yay,
happy.
we're so excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Go ahead, Christine. I'm gonna let you guess do like the sub intro.
Okay, awesome. So as you guys come into the live, I know we have 9 people. If you guys can do us a huge solid and please just like the video as you come in, that will help us out a lot to boost the lag to people who may be interested. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. Sarah, I don't know if there's a feedback on our end, but when we're not talking, I think if we just all mute ourselves, then it'll just be easier.
Yeah, if for anyone who's watching, we're even having technical difficulties. So if you hear any like echo or anything, let us know in the chat so we can maybe try to adjust.
Right.
But yeah, so again, if you're just joining us, we're going to be discussing being a career woman in the South Sudanese diaspora and the challenges that we face as far as growth, or just not really having like the resources, the representation. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of South Sudanese people in certain industries, so you sometimes you may not know how to navigate certain industries because you don't have like someone to look up to. So there, we're going to go into a lot of different things. I also want to kind of discuss like the black tax. I think that's something that we talked about on our podcast, and how that can affect us being career women, not learning or knowing how to invest into certain, certain things, so things like that, that a lot of us South Sudanese women didn't learn from our parents. So we're going to be discussing all those things. So I'm excited. Where do you want to start, Christine?
Let me go ahead and just give a breakdown for those of you that are joining us today. So today's episode is titled South Sudanese Women, Careers, Challenges, and Growth. So basically the focus of this episode is going to be all things career. We often see the success, but not the journey that got us there. So today we're sitting down with two incredible South Sudanese women to hear how they built their careers, the lessons they've learned, and what they wish they knew earlier. So I think this will be very helpful for all of us to kind of have a mastermind, because often we really don't know what people have going on, who could be a resource for us, and who could kind of get us into places that we want to be. Because most oftentimes, I didn't even know that like you went to Harvard, not, or you are like this woman that's been in tech before the big craze where everyone got into tech around the pandemic and everyone started wanting to do like cybersecurity and project management, all these things. You were kind of in it way before. So would love to hear kind of like your career path, how you even stumbled upon this so early on. And I think last time you said something like you've been doing it for 8 years now. Yeah, so that is amazing. Like Sarah said, you went to Harvard, I think for graduate school.
Yeah, for my graduate school.
Exactly. So really, really impressive. First of all, kudos to you to see a South Sudanese woman accomplishing such amazing things. It's amazing, but most people don't know about it, right? So I think like getting in rooms like this, or whether it's online or in person, I feel like you could be such a huge inspiration to other young girls that look like us coming up, and even us currently right now, right? Like it's totally awesome. I'm so excited to hear about your story. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of what we're going to be doing here, Deanna. I'm so excited to hear about your background. It's our first time having you on the show, so a pleasure to have you. And I'll go ahead and get us started with the first kind of segment that we want to break into, which is how it started versus where you are now. So career paths rarely go as planned. So I just want to open the floor with Knock and just basically ask, like, how did you get started in your field? And did you always know that this was a path for you, or kind of how did you get started?
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like I would have never thought that I was going to be in the tech industry, but now that I'm here, I don't know what else I could do, right? And so I started out. I always feel like when I got my first the job with the company that I work with now, my brother was like, "What? You're transitioning to tech?" Because I used to be the one like, "Oh, call him. Can you update my phone? Walk me through it. Like, let's do this." Like, just all, I think a lot of it was just laziness, or I just didn't want to focus on that. But I started out. So I went to Georgetown for my undergrad, and I played women's basketball. But I first entered into. They have different schools. They had the college, which was more liberal arts. And I knew immediately that space was not for me. Like as a freshman, you had to take liberal arts classes like English and philosophy and theology and write papers. And I was like, this, I can't. I'm terrible at writing papers. I can't focus. I don't know what this professor is talking about. But then I took my first statistics class, and I was like, this is a little bit more interesting to me, right? And it was also very structured, meaning we're going to take a test, there's one answer, it's going to take 30 minutes, 40 minutes versus having to write a paper and pontificate on this paper. So I was able to kind of discern that I am not going into this liberal arts. I'm more of a technical person, but I need to find what I want to do. So I transferred to the business school, and I majored in marketing and finance. And I thought, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, so this is kind of good. So the finance, that's why the finance is sprinkled there, because I want to learn how to manage my own money. And then I decided to kind of pursue finance, and so I got a master's in finance, but learned quickly that that is not my area either. Like, I was a very extroverted finance person. I just, and I think after a while, I wasn't just very good at it, because you have to stay up to date. You have to like often study, understand what you're doing. And it just wasn't my passion. And so I was working in South Sudan, focusing on finance, but I knew in my mind I had to transition out of it. And so I'm going to skip a little bit of the story, but eventually I came back to the US. I used to be in South Sudan after there was conflict, and kind of had to start over, right? It was like, I have invested 7 years in Juba, and now I've been literally evacuated out of South Sudan and need to figure out my next step. And so the next best step was to try to go back to grad school, to kind of pivot and find my way in the US, because it was very hard to find a job that would translate, the skills that I was building in South Sudan, even though that's a whole nother conversation. But I think our skills are very transferable. But a lot of it was hard. So I went back to grad school. And so luckily, when I applied to Harvard, I didn't tell anybody. I told, at that time, my husband and my brother. Me and my sister are really close. I didn't tell her. I didn't even tell my mom. I'm very close to my mom. Just because, it's that self-doubt. And I think we do that for ourselves, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Could I ever make it? I'm just kind of embarrassed that I'm even applying.
What made you want to apply in the first place? Like, what kind of sparked that?
So it was encouragement. Like, there was a lady who did the program, and she said, you need to go for this program. It's the Kennedy School, Harvard Kennedy School, John F. Kennedy School, and I think you'd be great. And she kept like following up. She was like, did you apply? Are you going to apply? Here's the link. And just following up. First, I was like, there's no way I'm going to like apply to Harvard. But then now I was going to apply to schools. So I was like applying to University of Maryland, of course, back at Georgetown, some other schools, but then kind of kept Harvard to the side. But I think that's also why mentors are so important, because if you don't have them, you never know what you can accomplish. So I applied and I got in, and I remember calling my sister, and she was like, what? You applied? And I was like, I know. I didn't even have that belief in myself, right? It was just like, if I didn't make it, nobody was going to know. I'm not going to be that embarrassed. But I made it, and it was an amazing experience. And the school that I went to, so Harvard has a lot of different schools. There's like engineering school, there's liberal arts school, there's the business school, but I was at the Kennedy School, and I was the first South Sudanese to attend that school. And so it was, it was amazing. And I wanted to, make sure that there were women that followed me afterwards, and I've tried. Unfortunately, we haven't had somebody come in, but this is a call for action in this call, that if you're interested or if you're nervous, hit me up. I can pump you up. I can get you excited, because I think it's important that you try. And so once I graduated, my whole thought was to transition. Still, I need to leave finance. So when I graduated, I got a job with a consulting firm doing management consulting. But the way that I got in was into this CFO group, where we went and we consulted chief financial officers. But I knew in the back of my head that they had a big technology group, that I was going to transition out of that. And so I would have never thought that's where I was going to end up, being kind of a finance business person. But that's where I am now. And I love it. It's a great space to be in. Tech is big. There's a lot of different things to, pieces, a lot of niches, but it's a great place to work.
I want to touch on you saying that you were the first South Sudanese to attend the school. First of all, kudos, that's amazing.
Congratulations. That's amazing. It really is. Because I knew that there was not a lot of South Sudanese or very few. Um, but I didn't know that you were the very first. So that's actually incredible.
Wow.
And
Yes.
and I just like it makes this to the Harvard the Kennedy School, because Harvard does have different schools. So there have been other South Sudanese women that have gone to Harvard Law School, the education school, other South Sudanese, still very minuscule, and they might have also been the first for those programs. But at the Kennedy School, I was the first.
And how did you navigate being the only one in that space? Obviously, as South Sudanese people, we have a very unique phenotype. So clearly you're going to stand out off the top. So how did you navigate kind of being the first one and the only one?
Yeah, I think that, I came with a lot of energy. I was excited. Like, I felt like once I got accepted, then I was like, why am I holding back? And like you said, and I had short hair at that time. So I came in with short hair. I didn't have my locks at that time. So I was very, typical looking South Sudanese. And I had pride in that. And so we had a big African cohort. But I still could feel that, like, people don't really know about South Sudan. Like, some folks were like, oh, I heard about South Sudanese, but you're my first South Sudanese that I met. And I'm still like, man, we, South Sudan is great. We just don't have good PR, unfortunately. And so
That's so true. Yeah. Netson said, I completely agree with everything you said about mentorship. A fellow South Sudanese woman encouraged me to apply to business school, and I'm forever grateful for her support. So yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's the whole purpose of this conversation, right? It's like not just to talk about what we've done or what other South Sudanese people have done, but like, oh, you can do it too.
Yeah.
And to reach out so that you kind of know where to start. A lot of people sometimes just don't know where to start. And hopefully it's encouraging to see somebody that looks like you, who's already done it or is on the path to doing it, and they can kind of show you the ropes or give you like mentorship. So that's amazing. So if you have questions, leave them down below. And then Deanna, I want to go ahead and hear about your career and like how you decided to become a counselor. Becoming a counselor is so needed in our community. And and then just give us information on like what kind of counselor, like I don't know if there's like different sectors of counsel being a counselor, but like what kind of counseling you do.
Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, that was really amazing, not just hearing your story and, you being the first in Harvard. Like, that is so cool. And the fact that you're also doing tech, that is so neat. Yeah, for me, actually, yes, I went for counseling. But so how I started is, I graduated, and honestly, I did not really know what I wanted to do, but I'm like, I have to do something, I have to do something with my life. So, a lot, I was drawn
Relatable.
to, yeah, I was drawn to counseling because, well, I just felt like it suited me. I was very interested in that topic. And also I think like 22 at that time. So, people around me were telling me, oh, you know what? I think you'd be a really great counselor, people who know me, right? So I'm like, and, the opportunity came. So I signed up for the school and I went, and I really, really enjoyed it. I love the classes. I learned so much, and I didn't really know what to expect. I was going to college, so I love the classes. I learned a lot of things that I could also apply to my personal life. So it was extremely educational, but also therapeutic, because the people teaching you are counselors themselves. So I did my bachelor's degree, so I did the 4 years, but and then I was going to do my master's. I didn't end up doing it. So right now, actually, I'm not practicing. Like, I'm not an official counselor, because there was a point where I love the educational side of counseling, but as I grew and evolved as a person, because by the time I graduated, I was in my mid 20s, and I was still figuring myself out. I love the educational side of it, but as I've grown older, I'm like, you know what, I don't really see myself sitting in an office for 8 hours and listening, and It's very
It's real.
heavy. It's very heavy work. And I just didn't feel like I had the maturity, or it's not something I'm ready to do, you know? And so even though I love the education, I love being able to share what I've learned because it's great stuff, very interesting things. Um, but I didn't feel like I was ready to make it official in an office and things like that, you know? So
Yeah.
I haven't been practicing as a counselor. And, you know, there was a point where I was trying to like do my master's, but it was like blocked. Like I just couldn't finish it, you know? And 1 year passes and I'm still trying to finish my master's, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta let this go. Because I felt like I was doing it because I felt like I should and I'm supposed to, like the next step, you know? But my
Yeah.
life was moving in a different direction at that time. Things were changing a lot, you know, and I was learning different things about myself and my interests were just different. So
Yeah.
I think
That's
this
real.
happened, yeah, because you change as a person too. And
Yeah.
so it's like a degree that I earned, and I'm really grateful for that experience. It was what I needed at that time because also it gave me something to do. It kept me busy, you know, and so it was great for that at that time. So right now I'm
So
kind of,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you right
yeah,
now. Currently, what are you doing now for work?
right now I guess I'm just in the middle of a transition in my life, trying to figure out, okay, which direction do I want to go to? Uh, I love the education I received, but I also know that I'm very passionate about working with children. I've worked with kids all my life, and I want to deepen that area and learn more and go to school for that. And also, I'm very interested right now in just kind of pursuing the things that I'm really passionate about, things that I'm learning that I love, like doing these kind of things, content creation. I love YouTube and things like that. So it's kind of a place where I'm figuring out which direction I want to go and where I want to put my time and my efforts. And
yeah.
so yeah,
And I
so
think
that's
that's actually a very like an honest roadblock is, you know, thinking that you want to do something and then realizing that you may not be ready for that or may not want to pursue that all the way. And just being honest with yourself and saying,
yeah.
this is not something that I would want to do for the
Mhm.
rest of my life. And so I guess how did you navigate that, especially with the pressure of our South Sudanese culture? It's
Mhm.
like
Yeah, I was
they,
gonna ask. Um, Basically, on the outline, it touches on learning how
yeah,
to pivot or when to pivot, like when things are kind of not working out. I
Yeah.
think that's something both of our guests could kind of touch on is like how important do you think it is in like knowing when it's time to let something go?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, for me, it's just like I felt like I was pushing this thing and I was trying to make it happen. And it's just like there was other things in my life that were so much more interesting to me at that point, you know? And like it was a point in my life where I met my husband and I was completely focused on other things, you know? And so it's just I think for me, you let it go when you feel like you're pushing, like you're trying to make it happen, but your heart is not in it anymore. And when I did let it go, I felt relieved. I'm like, okay, you know what? This master's thing is not meant to be, and I'm okay
yeah.
with that, you know?
Did you
So,
feel pressured to have to get a master's from like
ah,
your family or the South Sudanese society? I mean, I know you're in Canada, so it may be different, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
you know,
here, yeah,
yeah, I didn't feel pressured. I think the pressure came more from myself because I kept telling everybody I was going for my master's, you know, like you know, so I felt that internal pressure because that's what I was telling others, and but then I didn't end up doing it. So I honestly think more of the pressure came from me. Um, you know, I think my parents were just happy that I went to school and I got a bachelor's and everything. Um, but and also it just seemed like all my other classmates and colleagues, you know, they got their bachelor's and then they got their master's, you know. So I was like, okay, that's what everybody does. So let me just follow the path that everybody's doing. Um, but no, I didn't feel a lot of pressure, thankfully, you know. But I just felt like because I had started this thing that I should finish it. And sometimes I think we feel like because we started something that we have to finish it. Some people are like that. But sometimes you start something and you just realize like, you know what, this is not, I don't have to finish this. It's just not meant to be, or it's not the time for me right now. And it's okay to let it go. It's okay to drop it, you know. So without feeling bad or feeling guilty or feeling like you know, failed or whatever. So it was just me accepting that I don't have to continue and it's okay. I started. Yes, I went far, but it's okay to let it go. So
I
yeah.
think sometimes when you announce something, or like to family and friends too, there's also that extra weight of like, I already told everybody that I'm doing this thing and now I don't want to
Yeah.
do this thing anymore. But how do I kind of backtrack without looking some type of way? Or yeah, but I want to pass that same question to Knock about learning when to pivot.
Blair,
Mhm.
just to read a comment, Blair said, 100% I wish I dropped out of grad school earlier. I
Mm,
hate that I let people convince me.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's hard.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Now go ahead. Yeah, I guess like, was there a time that you ever felt like you had to pivot or go a different direction, or how do you even know? Because it seems like you kind of knew where, like, what goalpost to hit. How did you like figure out where, like, which direction you knew you wanted to go and to stick to that?
So I think that if like I did so many things and it might have looked like I had direction, but I didn't. It's because I was fearless, meaning that I tried to do a lot of things. So like I got into like when I went to, playing basketball in college, an amazing experience in itself, right? It gives you so much exposure to so many people and opportunities. And the business school, I met some entrepreneurs, and I was like, oh, maybe that's like the direction I want to go. But when I got into finance and continued it and did a master's of accounting and financial management, that was where it was like once I finished that and worked for like a year, I was like, this is not it. I can't see myself, and I would try to tell myself, "Oh, my goal is to be a CFO." I would say that in the back of my head, but
That's
on the front, I knew that was not like I just could not make that. And so tried to continue working in that field, but um, but I knew I had to make that pivot for myself because at the end of the day, I started to dread the work that I was doing. Right? It was like I wasn't even continuing to grow in that space because I hit a wall, and I think a lot of us as women we face that, but we try to persevere, we try to push through because it's like, man, I did all this already and now I have to I have to stay the course, but that's not true. Oh, like you always have time to pivot and recenter yourself. And so even at that time when I went back to grad school, I already had 2 kids. I had my son, he was 9 months, and it was like, woo, you're going into grad school with a baby that doesn't even walk. And so but I had in my head that whatever I get out of this program is that I'm not looking for a financial job. I want to pivot into tech, innovation. I'm interested in the public service, but to get out. And so I feel like when like there's good people that you can trust and kind of say this pivot. Like one of my brothers, I was working with him very closely and he knew my financial skills. And, at first he questions it, like why, you kind of built yourself up in this direction. But I was honest, like, I'm not feeling this. I'm not liking this. I'm not saying I'm done working or anything like that. I need to find another path for myself. And so part of it is like having honest conversations and then being fearless. So I put myself in other opportunities because so working and meeting this lady who said, hey, you should try this program. And then even at Harvard, where I met my former boss, I was at an event and I did a speech and I spoke and I introduced myself because I was in this program for women and I introduced myself. And she came up to me and she said, man, I love your story and I want to mentor you. And that was her words. And she gave me her card and she said, call me. And so we built that relationship. And so if I wasn't putting myself out there, I don't think that I would have those opportunities. And I remember when they asked me to be one of the few students who introduced themselves, I, was a little hesitant, but if I didn't do that, and so the point is, I think it's important to put ourselves out there, because sometimes you don't know what opportunities will come. And so she worked for this tech company, and I knew whatever I had to do, I wanted to be in that company, right? And so I just say that we have to try a lot of things. We have to um, find good people around us to encourage us and maybe talk through what we're thinking, because even what we're thinking could be completely different from where you are. But I love reading the stories. I'm sorry, last tangent, but like some certain people, like they left careers and they went to medical school when in their 30s, and people thought they were crazy, and they became doctors, changed careers completely. So I think that we have no one, we're the owners of our life. We have that room to pivot and to change. And I had a full career in finance, but now if you tell me now, I've been an executive in tech for 8 years, and I can't even remember how to do some of those equations that were stuck in the back of my head.
Right. What are some challenges that you guys have faced trying to find the direction you want to go with your career? Because, or even with school, how did you? For me, I guess I can just speak for myself. One of my biggest challenges in college was trying to figure out what I wanted to major in, and like just pretty much like, where do I want to go, what direction do I want to go in life. Like my roommate, she went into nursing, but her mom was a nurse, so her mom was able to provide her those tools. And my mom, my mom from South Sudan, she wants me to go to college, but she had never went to college, so she couldn't really give me advice on what to do in college. It's just like, go to politics, because the South Sudanese people, we love politics. But I ended up doing international relations with a focus on Europe and Africa, and I had plans to go to South Sudan and work in South Sudan, but that didn't work out. So I'm like, ugh, if I knew that I wasn't going to work in South Sudan, I could have done a different major. I could have did something different, So even though I still could use and I plan to use my degree, hopefully soon, and go back to South Sudan, but it's like I could have done, I could have done something else. I could have pivoted if I knew better. But what do you think is like one of the challenges that you guys have faced trying to figure out where to go in with your life, or like, trying to be successful? Like where have been your like roadblocks? And that's for everybody,
Yeah.
even the audience.
Yeah, I just want to say actually before I answer that question that I think it's kind of crazy that when you graduate from high school, you're 18 years old, and they come with all these careers, and you're supposed to know your path, you know? And it's like you're so young, right? And I think when you're older, you realize just how young you are when you're like 18 years old and things like that. So for me, I think giving yourself, when you're like in your 20s, you're eight, you graduate high school, give yourself a time, give yourself grace. Don't feel the pressure that you have to know what it is that you're supposed to be doing right now, because circumstances change in life. As you get older, you get to know yourself better. And of course, there are some people who know exactly what they want to do, like from the day they're born, but for most of us, we change, you evolve, your values change, your desires change, and things like that. So I think first, just take the pressure off that you have to know right away, and you have to have this figured out right now because of whatever. And take time to maybe just discover yourself a little bit, do other things, explore a little bit, maybe explore different things, go out there, have fun, explore and try different things, maybe volunteer. Like if you think that you're gonna love maybe being, yeah, like let's say tech, you can go and volunteer at a tech place, or volunteer as as a nurse, or whatever it
Or
is, try.
talk to people that are in tech
Yes, and
first.
that's a good one too. Talk to people who are doing that, and who are maybe have been doing it for 10 years, and see like, okay, these people have been doing this job for 10 years. Do they seem happy? Like, do they like this work? And get their honest opinion, right? So that's a great idea. So I think just taking the pressure off when you're young helps a lot. And I think, like for me anyways, when I was yeah, in my 20s, I was thinking that I should know, that I would know, and things like that. But I realize now that things change, and you change as a person, and you get wiser too, right? So Now I'm like, well, you know what? If I really want to be a counselor, maybe I'll wait till I'm like 50 years old to really get into that, because if it's heavy, I'll have more, wisdom and experience and things like that. But anyway, Sarah, what was your question? I just
Yeah,
wanted to add.
just like those challenges. I think you answered it. The challenges of figuring out the direction you want to go with your life or your career, and yeah, and the pressure as well. I think, like you said, when we turn 18 or when we graduate high school, it's like we're pressured to know what we're supposed to do, and if you pivot, it's like you wasted your time. That's what you're told. Like, you wasted your time. You should have kept going, or you could have. So I think just you answered it well, like, and had some solutions as well. Like, maybe talk to people within those fields that you're interested in getting in. When I wanted to go to law school, I had talked to lawyers, and a lot of lawyers were like, "You can make more money working less hard." But so, and then some lawyers were like, "Yes, you should do it. You should get into law school." So just hearing different advice, like hearing different stories and perspectives from people who are already in the field, I think that's a good way. That's a good solution. Any other solutions? And also, people in the audience, please leave solutions as well, because we're trying to figure it out as well.
We have a comment from Yatan. She said, I also think there are a lot of careers that people in our community didn't even know were possible. That's why conversations like this are so important and why representation matters. So, and if you guys see me muting your camera, I definitely want you to speak. It's just, I think that's what gives the echo. I figured it out. So, I also wanted to touch on, like, for me, I know it took me a long time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do personally. So I think I've done almost every job, I'm just kidding, possible, but I've literally worked in all kind of different industries. I was an independent contractor for 4 years. So that was a whole journey, like kind of figuring out like working for yourself and then getting back into corporate. And then also doing real estate. So I feel like in my 20s, I really gave myself the opportunity to try a bunch of different things to figure out what I like and what I didn't like. And I realized that I am not the kind of person who wants to do the same exact thing every single day. That was my first job right out of college. It was an accounting job, and I was so miserable, and I actually quit that job. But I think it's important to kind of learn yourself, right? If you don't like something, why don't you like it? And what is a possible better fit for you? And like Natan said, there's a lot of jobs out there that people don't even know exist. Like what I do now, I work for one of the biggest banks, and I never knew this type of job existed. The only reason I stumbled across it is because when I was an independent contractor, I kind of was doing that like third party, so business to business. So I kind of cut out the middleman and was able to go directly to the lender, who is the bank. But I think you can only find out different things out there by trying new things and talking to people. So Nok mentioned something earlier about how she kind of stumbled upon her job by giving a speech and then having someone approach her and offer to be her mentor, which is like hitting the lottery, honestly. Like having, first of all, getting a mentor is very hard, but having someone come and offer to do it for you, that's kind of amazing. So I also wanted to, kick the ball back to you and ask you, like, how do you take up space in professional environments, being that you're gonna stick out most of the time in whatever company you're studying? Like, how do you take up space, and how do you like kind of have a voice? I know sometimes women in the workplace, we often don't have a voice as it is, but as a South Sudanese woman, like, how are you able to navigate that? I see you as a confident woman. So I think that what you share with us could give us, something to go off of.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like when I think of myself when I first started with the company and how a lot of self-doubt that I had, and people are often talking about like imposter syndrome or all these things, and it's very easy for to allow that, those feelings to overtake you and not, and kind of dim your own light. And so like I think one of the good things as South Sudanese that we as a community, we want we want us to be educated, right? Like we came here, a lot of us came here as refugees, and it's important, that importance of education. Education is that equalizer. So even and now I'm talking not just about the formal education, I'm talking about on the job education, right? So I was now an employee, and I was like, I am going to learn, right? Because the most important thing, like usually within your company, so for us, why I think my company is amazing, a lot of tech companies, is because we have this wide open learning library, right? So it's like, I want to learn about, Bitcoin, or I need to learn, I need to understand, infrastructure security, or whatever it is. You have endless resources. So people don't use that as often, right? Like when something is right there in front of you, some people don't take advantage of it. One of the things that I wanted to do, because I came into this consulting, it was consulting work, and consulting has its own kind of language. And I didn't know that language. And so I thought the only thing that I could do for myself is to upskill myself. That is a consultant word, but teach myself, and so that I could be confident, right? Because there's always this phenomenon, like when you're, whether it's school or whatever, it's like somebody asks a question, you think you know the answer, but you shy away, you don't answer it. And somebody else says it, and it's exactly, you knew it immediately. You're like, damn, I should have spoke up. That happens everywhere, right? And so one of the things, I mean, it's a blessing that I came from grad school. So yes, I was more confident, but I said, no. I'm going to come here. I'm going to come into this space. I'm going to, educate myself, use every tool possible, and try to learn this language. And then I was also, surrounded. I think most of us South Sudanese, we have great personalities. And I was a person who would ask for help. Like you find that person that you can trust, or that's willing. We can suss out a room. We can tell who's willing to help you, and ask for help and learn from them. And so,
Yeah.
that changed the game for me, because it was like I was able to be, promoted rapidly. I think we are, as women already, we are very relatable. People like us. We, when we're good at our job, it's just an even more superpower. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. Closed mouths don't get fed. And I think it's really important, if you want something or need something, to ask for it. That's helped me a lot.
yeah,
Because I think that's probably one of my strong suits, is I can be very personable. And so use that to your advantage. If you have a good personality, you make people feel comfortable, ask for help. Like, I want to, like, how did you get to where you're at?
yeah,
I had a supervisor that I worked with, and she was a Black woman. She was African American, and she liked me so much, and so she would always tell me like how capable she thought I was, and give me tools to grow in my position. And she wanted me to, like, you know be in like, grow in my field. And so I feel like it's just like having that relationship. There was nothing, I wasn't better than any of my other, coworkers. It's just that we built that relationship. So I think it's very important to network and build relationships as well. And that could take you
Also
far.
competence. I think that there's a phrase that's competence breeds confidence or something. So I think from what you were saying is like know your stuff. Like when you know what you're talking about, it will come off of you and you're able to be confident. Even if you're scared on the inside or nervous, the fact that you know the information, I think will give you that extra boost when you might not be as confident. So that's one takeaway that I took from what you were saying.
yeah.
And talk about South Sudan. I swear, talk about your country. People are interested. That's a conversation starter, and they're like, "Wow, this young lady came from, from this to this, and they're trying to grow." I promise you that helps. I do that. I don't care. I always bring up I'm from South Sudan, even interviews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's actually smart. Like, not to be funny, but I think that gives someone like a point of connection with you. Because obviously, some people are often curious, like, she looks a little different. I wonder where she's from. So if you're quiet and standoffish, maybe that won't help, you know?
hmm
yeah.
Listen, when I had an interview, the interviewer had asked me a question that kind of threw me off guard. And I'm like, well, I'm from South Sudan. And I started off with that. And I just like built off me being from South Sudan, and then related it to the question. and it ended up working out.
Yeah. And I tell you, like, she will remember you. Like, I
Yeah.
meet a lot of people, and those people who come with a story about themselves
Yeah.
and kind of a clear narrative, I always remember those people because it's like, oh man, she's
Yeah.
cool. Like, and that saying, like, oh, I want to have a beer with that person. It's
Yeah.
actually really true. Like, if somebody wants to hang out with you or sit with you for a little bit longer, there's something there. And as women, we have that personality. Like,
Yeah.
it's natural, it's innate in us, especially as South
Yeah.
Sudanese women. So,
Yeah, and I think it's a way to like separate, like you said, like make yourself like stand out, and be different from the next person that they interview, and you still make it relate to what you're doing, to the job. So you're not, it's not just random, but you bring in like your country, what you've been through. You're a refugee, and you've learned resilience, and that's how you learned how to, to have empathy for people, depending on what job you're doing. And so I think that's helped me honestly a lot. Is actually being from South Sudan has helped me in my work fields. So yeah, so
I love that tip, Sarah. Like, use it as a
yes, absolutely.
Mm. I wanted to add something, going back to the, navigating the challenges. I think something that is, you know, like when you should switch, whether it's work, even like just work, not even if it's a full career. But I remember I worked as a receptionist for a while, for 6 years, and there's there was a point where the job was just not it, it wasn't challenging me, and I think it's important to, whether it's a career or job, you should feel challenged, you should feel like you're growing, and that it requires you to use your brain and to, yeah. And there was a point where I just felt like this is not really challenging, and it was time to go. It served me well at that time, in that season of my life, but and I remember that at my 6th year, they gave me a little plaque to award me for, my dedication and for being there. And I was not proud. I was actually embarrassed. I was like, I've been here for 6 years, And I was like, man, this is a sign. Like, I gotta go. And I wanted to go. And I think sometimes we feel that we want to go, but sometimes, you get comfortable, even though it's not a challenging position or it's not for you and you're not passionate about it. You get comfortable, it pays the bills, especially if it's paid well and things like that. And there's that fear of like, what if I don't find something better, or things like that. So, but when you're starting to feel like, for me, where I was kind of like, oh, I've been here for 6 years, I gotta go, when you're not necessarily proud. And also, I think a job or a career should be something that gives life to you, something that like brings life into you, not sucks the life out of you, where you're coming home and you're like, oh, you're frustrated with whatever happened, or the environment is so draining, or you feel like the life gets sucked out of you when you get home, and you have to like re-energize and re-strengthen yourself, and recharge all the time. So I think that's another thing when it comes to that. Well, I'm just kind of going back to, I was thinking of that, is you is it draining you, is it life-giving for you, and
I
if
love
you're
that.
in something and it's not life-giving for you and it's just draining you, you got to really think about it, because your energy is precious, your happiness is important. And so it's like, why go to an environment every single day, especially if you're working 8 hours, to be drained, where you could go somewhere where you can be, life can be put into you, you can come home excited, encouraged, and feeling challenged, feeling like you're growing as a person, right? So I think that's something really important to keep in mind. Does this environment uplift me, or does it bring me down? And I have to put energy into recharging myself so that I can make it to the next day. Or do I wake up dreading going to work, you know? Or it's just like, oh, it's Monday, or oh, another 8 hours, I have to deal with these people, So something to keep in mind.
I love that. And then, and if you're in that situation, it's okay to pivot. So it's okay to change your direction, and pivot and try something new. And I love, Christine, that you said that you've done so many different like jobs in your early 20s or in your mid 20s, because I think that shows like it's okay to change the direction of your career. You don't have to stick to anything that you don't want to that you don't want to do. And if you don't like it, change. It's okay. And just you still have that on your resume. You still have that skill set, but you don't have to stay anywhere that you're not happy. And I think a lot of South Sudanese girls should know that. And because I think with how we're raised and how we've grown up is like you should stick to something. Like if you started something, stick to it and just be good at that and make good money. And we don't really have any, so we just follow that because we want to please our parents or we want to please our community. So I think it's important to note that it's okay to change directions. It's literally okay. And find a mentor, find someone that can help you, so that you're not wasting time. Try as hard as possible to not waste time, but it's okay to find yourself along the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah, and also just trust that life has something good for you, that there's other opportunities out there that when you take that step of faith, good things will show up, right? So having that trust too, that life has good things for you as well. So anyways, Christine, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to piggyback off what you were saying about like knowing when to leave and when you're not happy. I think that's what kind of spearheaded me in my early 20s is, first of all, I think it's a part of like that personal development that you have to do earlier on in life to like really get to know yourself so that you can know when you get that feeling of like it's time to go. And I learned that when I started like a job, and usually I'd be so excited and doing everything with like full enthusiasm. And then as time progresses, maybe everything starts to become annoying to you, or you just start getting frustrated over nothing, and like you start getting agitated and you're no longer happy. To me, that's usually a telltale sign that it's time for me to pivot or figure out what it is that's making me unhappy there. And if it's something that I can't remedy, then maybe it's time for me to move on. And I think it's very important to listen to yourself. Like if you're starting to get depressed or feel down or anything like that, I think it's important to listen to yourself and not just to always try to push through. Sometimes you do get burnt out. It's a normal part of work. So I'm not saying that anytime you get frustrated, just quit your job. But I'm just saying that if it's like over a prolonged period and it's starting to really, really have an effect on your mental health in your life, then maybe you should kind of take a step back and reassess what it is that you're doing there. Can you grow there? Do you want to grow there? Because you could grow there. Look at the people that are senior to you and think to yourself, do I want that person's job? Do I want to be that person? And if you don't, then I wouldn't stay on that train, because the longer it takes you to get off, just the harder it's going to be. So I think that just taking that time to kind of have that one-on-one with yourself and kind of figure out what you're going to do. And in our generation, you don't have to stay at a job for 20 years, right? So I think it's actually healthy to kind of move around every few years. It helps with increasing your salary as well. So
yeah, they're promoting like job hopping now, career hopping now.
right.
So that's a big thing. Yeah, when honestly, but like you said, not if you get burnt out, that is a normal process. But for me, once I start feeling like I'm complacent, that's when I start looking in other areas. And especially if the company that I'm at doesn't is not open to growth, then I definitely am like, okay, like I've already got like comfortable in this job. I'm getting too comfortable. Now I'm just like, it's like airplane mode. I know what I'm doing. Now it's time for me to I feel like I need to elevate. And if you're not going to allow me to elevate, so I'm challenging myself, then I'm going to I'm going to have to go to a different place. I'm going to go to a different company. And I think that's okay. It's okay. But
We have a
Nathan
post
said,
there. Yeah, if you want to read it.
oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can read. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Oh, okay, so Nyatan said, with everything happening politically around DEI, how do you stay focused on your goals and block out all the noise, especially as Black women in corporate? That's a really good question. Knock, I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah. Again, it's like it's community.
Oh, sorry, knock up. Sorry, ladies. What's DEI?
Oh, you're in Canada.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to know what that is before. Is that like a?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with all that's going on, it's community, right? It's like, particularly, you know, yes, we work so much, so you have to have a work community. You have to find mentors that you can trust, that will speak honestly to you. And then I think that community should be uplifting you, right? If it's not, then that's not your community. Because right now we have to understand, like, so for me, in my workspace, I'm here because I'm good at what I do, right? Not only that I'm good at what I do, but I am somebody that builds relationships with clients, right? And I make you money. So part of it also is like remembering my skill set and my power, and being around people who will remind me of my power and my greatness. So that community is so important. And I know sometimes, like, when things are hard, we want to isolate, and sometimes that isolation could be harmful to us. But it's really important, especially at these times, is to you, and your community doesn't have to be huge. I have some really, really great girlfriends, you know, South Sudanese. Shout out to Melly, Awak, and Aluel. My Kush crew, they are very strong, powerful women that support me. And so that's my social group. You know, we're all queer women. And then I have my work group who also support me. So again, I can just reiterate that it's your community. And if the community is not satisfying you right now, find your community, because we're going to need that, especially for the future. And also, like, I think that there's different aspects of your community, right? So those of you that are just meeting me now for the first time, I might be in your business community. Like, you might be interested in tech, you know, particularly cloud security, software, because that's my space. And so build a relationship with me, right? Reach out, be fearless. Because I think for anybody that I've ever sought interest in, I've just reached out to them directly. And I'm like, well, the worst they can do is ignore my email. And so I would say just community, be with people who uplift your greatness.
Real quick, while you're on that topic, so for any South Sudanese young ladies who are interested in getting into the tech industry, or who are maybe in another industry and are looking to pivot into tech, maybe cybersecurity or something within that space, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
So I would say, man, nowadays too, there's so much free information out there in terms of educating yourself or upskilling. Because not even now, it's like upskill. Like, how do I get some kind of basic skills, right? And so for my company, like, we have programs now where you don't even need a full degree, right? There's programs that you can get into where you can get training. Because what I will always say when I mentor people is that I did not learn what I learned in the school book, in my education, in my classroom. I learned on the job training. And people make it seem like, oh, like, we just know all this stuff. And it's like, no, I learned everything about my work. And, you know, it's like specific to software security, configuration, that back end work. Sorry, it's a little technical, but I learned all of that on the job. And so I don't want us to be fooled that we come to a space knowing everything, because we don't, right? I didn't know anything about this kind of work or this line of work 8 years ago. And so my advice to you guys is, yes, you can, you know, see what's out there, Google things, you know, Chat GPT is amazing, right? You say you're interested in cybersecurity, build me a plan to upskill in cybersecurity in 9 months, right? What are the resources? What are the websites? You can read so much. And then once you get, not even a lot, I'm just saying a basic foundation, just so you yourself, and that's just for yourself to be confident, not for anybody else, because you don't even need that much level of experience. But then you can move to your mentor, you know, find the right mentor, start looking at roles. You know, if you do want to go the education route through school, that's also an option. But nowadays, there's programs that are shorter, right? And so first and foremost, let me tell you that the degree for tech is not only you know, software engineer, not only a, you know, a systems engineer, right? Consulting, the people that I've met, we, like, one of the things one of my other partners does ask is, what did you study? Because people studied so many different things. I've met counselors, I've met people in liberal arts, I've met mathematicians, and so very few folks will say, oh, I was actually a software engineer. Those might be our coders, right? But then within that space, within tech is a big rainbow. And so even within tech, we have PMs, people who are not techie, but they can manage us, right? Like we need managers. And so there's so much space in that. So don't think that because I'm not so technically sound, I cannot penetrate this environment. So that's just, that's my advice, but don't fear it. That's what I would say. Do not fear that space.
I love that. I think that's amazing, especially tech is such a huge field, and a lot of people are making money in tech. And the fact that it's not just tech is it's such a broad term, but there's so much there's so much that goes underneath the umbrella, and so there's opportunities for, especially a lot of us South Sudanese. There's opportunities for us.
Yeah.
So we would love for anybody who's on here who wants to connect to Nuck, if you don't mind, if they would reach out, if they can reach out to you via email or anything, whatever you're comfortable with. If they're interested in, getting into that route, I think that would be amazing for us.
Yeah. I'm definitely open to it, because in tech, some of us techie people, we need managers, we need change people, we need folks who can, support the whole process.
Yeah. I love it.
It would be awesome to also have some type of women's mastermind maybe in the future. If you could also get with us maybe behind the scenes to kind of recommend some ladies who are doing some amazing things out there, and we'll try to find people as well so that we can do more of a deep dive in the future, hopefully, because I really feel like this connecting with other people in different industries as well as networking and also mentorship is so important. And I feel like because we have such a unique experience in America, in the workplace, I feel like it would be great to have some type of community where we could connect and kind of bounce ideas off of each other, even if it's just like a Discord or some type of group where every now and then we can just check in or drop information. I think that would be great, and a great way to share resources with one another. But we do have a comment. Angat said, Knock, what would your advice be for someone who is looking for opportunities in the tech field and came to the US as an international student?
So, okay. Tech field and came to the US as an international student. I think that I would want to know, like, what are you studying, right? Where are you located? Because there might be, some companies in your neighborhood that have opportunities. Because now the benefit within the tech industry is that we are not pigeoned to one area, right? Like we are a global organization type of work. And so some of these organizations, I mean, every company now, I say, is a digital company, is a tech company, because we use all type of softwares to run everything, right? And within education sectors. So even if you are interested, if your skill set is I don't know, there's a little information there, but as an international student, perhaps, your global experience, I think that that there is space for you to enter into tech, right? Because and perhaps we can dive a little bit more and have a conversation offline, but to understand what you are currently studying and where you want to head, because there are so many line items within tech. So first of all, I would just kind of think through, perhaps do a little bit of research of what you could do within that space. Because it is, like I said, it's a big rainbow. I hope that helped you.
Just for the sake of time, we do want to open up the chat for any questions. We are at that hour mark. So if you guys can ask any questions, just so we give our panelists time to answer. But Sarah, you can jump in there if you want.
Yeah, because we have people from South Sudan who are also listening or watching. What, I guess, what advice would we give to someone in South Sudan who also has career goals? I know it is a little bit different, you know, living in America and obviously living in South Sudan, like navigating career is different. But what advice could we give to people back home who are watching, who would love to also advance in their careers? And Nok, maybe, and this is open to everyone. Nok, you lived in South Sudan, so you could probably give accurate or a little bit more concise advice. But I want to open this up to anybody who could answer, who could probably give a little bit of word of encouragement to people who is listening from back home.
And I just want to add on to that, just for final thoughts. Just to add on to whatever Sarah just asked, also for anyone who's watching or feeling stuck, what's one message or anything that you want them to take from this conversation? And that's for the both of you, but Nak, you can go ahead and have the floor first.
Okay, I might need to be reminded on what you just said, Christine. But I want to say, in terms of like Juba specifically, I think since opportunities, of course, are not the same, but I encourage on the job training, right? Like go to those companies, particularly tech. I don't know what's on the landscape now, but at that time for us it was like MTN, right? MTN is the phone industry, but they were hiring a lot of people, and within that field, you could learn a lot, right? In terms of engineering, of how to build things, right? The process, supporting the customers and things like that. So my first piece of advice would be, yes, you have to work on the job training. Yes, education is important, but I think that in Juba, particularly now, that if you want to build a skill set, because people are hiring based on skill sets, right? And so and meaning if you want to move up. So that in terms of South Sudan specifically, go after those companies that are there on the ground, get a job, start maybe at a basic role where you might just be the receptionist. I was also a receptionist for, and so where you can start to make some contacts, connections, and build your way up.
That's good advice, especially in South Sudan, where everything is very much about who you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, working on the ground. I think that's very practical advice. Yeah, I love it. And then also the second question, which Diana, you can jump in, is what would you say to someone right now who's feeling stuck in their career or in school right now, who doesn't know whether to turn left or to turn right? What advice would you give them?
Okay. I guess the advice I would give would be to pray and ask God to direct you. When we feel stuck, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's an opportunity to allow us to really reflect about what's important to us, what direction we want to go, So it's not always bad when we find ourselves in those kind of situations. But because I believe that, yes, there's a career aspect and the things that we want to go for and stuff like that. But there's also for me, I believe there's also the aspect of what is the purpose that God has for me? What is it that God wants me to do? And so if you're someone who's feeling stuck, I would just, that's what I did. I would pray and ask for direction and give it some time and just trust that God will guide your path according to what He has for you. And you just have to trust that, steps daily. You'll gain more clarity as you go along. The clarity comes with time, but you have to take steps. You have to decide, okay, I feel stuck, but I don't have to stay stuck. I'm gonna try something different, and I'm gonna ask God to direct me. And just trust that you will find your way out of there. You're not gonna be stuck forever, and just have faith that other opportunities and doors will open for you. Sometimes when we're stuck in a place, it feels like we're gonna be there either forever or, but with time, things definitely change. Things definitely change. There's seasons for everything. There's seasons where we feel stuck, and there's seasons where things become more clear, and the cloud kind of passes, and you see the sun again, and you see your path again. So I would just say, pray and don't rush. You don't have to rush. Give yourself time. Then things will unfold. Yeah.
I would add to that, find a way to. Sorry, let me move that. I would add, find a way to be in that environment without actually working there. So I remember in college, I really was thinking that I wanted to be a doctor or in the medical field. So I volunteered at a hospital, and that was how I realized that I didn't want to be a doctor. So imagine if I would have went to medical school and went through that whole process. So I think volunteering is not only a good way to kind of figure out whether something is a good fit for you or not, but it's also one of the best things you can do. I mean, it's an invaluable thing that you can give, which is your time. And I think it just will fulfill you in so many different ways and also save you a bunch of time because you're going to be able to see right away whether this thing is a good fit for you or not. So I think sometimes we always think that we just have to like jump into the career, start applying for jobs, fix our resume, and do it that way. But I think the easier way would be to kind of find a way to get in there without having any expectations or obligations for compensation.
Yeah. And honestly, y'all, please, networking. I feel like networking is so important. I've met a lot of people that have either given me opportunities or were willing to give me opportunities that I may have not gotten through, applying somewhere. So I feel like just like it's important to put yourself out there sometimes. Even if you're shy, go to a networking event. Don't be afraid to go to a networking event. We have a friend, her name is Holly. She just went to a tech networking event. She's not in tech as of yet, but she just went to one and she met so many people who want to help her, or want to get her to, want to direct her to a certain place. And so I think that's important is to, if you want to do something, network. Don't just be shy. Don't like, be in a shell. Get yourself out there every now and then, please. I think that's really important for your success. Um, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I love all of that. And I would say get serious about your mentors. So find two or three. I have three. And it's basically specifically, have one that looks like you, have one that doesn't look like you, and find a male mentor as well. And so because the difference of opinions, suggestions, and even ideas that you have never thought of, if you didn't have those mentors. And so I say get serious about your mentors and act serious, because a lot of these mentors, they will support you. They want to give advice, but you do have to reach out. You should be consistent. I love my mentees and I tell them, hey, I'm busy, but if I move the meeting, I swear I'm moving it because I have to move it, but we will connect. And they are persistent and they get my time and we have a good time. And so get serious about your mentors, because those are the people that will guide you and help you in your career.
We know how you got one of their mentors, but how did you get your mentors, or how did your mentees kind of convince you to be their mentor?
And are you willing to be a mentor? Because it sounds like some people are asking already.
Yes, for sure. And for me, I was saying, I was fearless and I was bold. So I went to a conference, and I met this director at Amazon at that time, AWS, which is like AWS is big software. And so we were having a good conversation, and then he gave me his card, and I was like, hey, I'm shopping for a mentor, as a joke, but it kind of lightened the field, and we have been connecting ever since, because his trajectory is, he's a CIO, which is a chief information officer. And so part of that is part of my goal, which is either chief information officer or chief technology officer. So I was very specific of understanding his role. And so I encourage people to be bold and just say, and be our normal selves and make jokes, and be serious that I'm looking for this mentor. So that's how I got him. And then this other lady, she actually also, I was in a conversation with her, and then I was really nervous to ask her to be my mentor because I felt she was very accomplished. But I also shared a story about myself, and she said, man, there's something about your story. And Sarah, it's because it's about South Sudan. And she's like, there's something about your story that I love. And then ever since then, she's been my mentor. And so she's not South Sudanese, she's African American. And so I think that it's important to put ourselves out there, because you don't know what you'll attract. You'll be surprised what you attract.
Yeah, share our stories because our stories are so unique. And I mean, I think that even goes back to the entire premise of our podcast, Ladies of Sosa. People gravitate to Ladies of Sosa, not only just South Sudanese people, Africans from all over the continent, African Americans, like people from Germany, Norway, they gravitate to the podcast just because the stories are unique. The perspectives are fresh. And I think people, even you can use that in your career as well. Like people will gravitate to you just because of the fact that, we're at the same place right now, but you come from a completely different place, or have a completely different story, and you can use that to your advantage. You can use being South Sudanese to your advantage. And I think that's beautiful because a lot of people associate South Sudan with negative narratives like poverty and drought and all the negative things that are attached to South Sudan. But it's like, no, I'm South Sudanese. I'm a positive story, and you can use that to push yourself, propel yourself in your career. So I love that. I love that that all kind of ties back into who we our identity. I love it.
Last question, I promise. So let's say you approach someone and you ask them to be your mentor. What is an appropriate way to nurture that relationship? How often should you be reaching out? How much is too much? Kind of how do you manage that mentor-mentee relationship once someone agrees to be your mentor? Like what's next? What do you do?
I think it's important that you read that person, right? Because like, you know, the the white dude that's my mentor, I don't have the same relationship with him as I have with this, the African American woman, as well as my South Sudanese mentor. And so you have to read them, right? And so I know that with the women, I can make, we're a little bit more relaxed. We can make these jokes, but I also respect their time. And so what I often do is I ask them, I'm say, when's the best time we can connect? And most people, like for us, is our calendars, right? Like I'll let them, we usually find a time that's proper, and for us, most of us, Fridays have become a little bit slower, especially in the tech space. Meetings are Monday through Thursday. Friday's a little bit slower. So I like to meet my mentees on Friday when I have less meetings. And so they suss me out, and I also suss out my mentors, and I ask them, and I stay consistent because I try my best not to cancel. Because when you cancel, when somebody gives you their time and you cancel, it looks unserious. And so for me, I really try to focus on that. But I think early on in that relationship, don't be shy to ask those questions, because that's the only way you're going to know how that mentor is. And the other advice outside of the question is, it's okay to dump your mentor, because you can try and it's like, it doesn't fit. I've had a couple mentors and it's like, oh, we run our course and thank you so much, but you're not for me. And that's fine, because that's the truth. Like some people are not for you. And so, your career, you're the owner of your career, your life. So you have to rotate people as you see fit. But when you find somebody that you think fits for you, respect their time, talk about, the schedule of what's best for them, like evenings, early mornings, whatever it is, and work together to make it fit.
I love that. It's almost like a counselor or a therapist. Like you don't have to use the same counselor and therapist. Like, you can get someone else if it's not working for you. And but Diana, you being just before we close out, I wanted to kind of speak about you being a counselor and how that's very important for us South Sudanese because I think it's there was I think it was noted that there was only one like mental health institution in South Sudan as of now. There's probably more now, but there's not a lot of like resources for mental health, especially in back home in South Sudan. And so when you said you were a counselor, I was like, oh, that's amazing. Or that you studied counseling. That is amazing because there's a lot of tools that a lot of South Sudanese people we don't have or we didn't learn. And so I just wanted to ask, like, how is it? What are some things that you've learned or were able to apply to yourself or to apply or to give back to the South Sudanese community here in the diaspora, especially you being in Canada? And tell us about Canada. How's the South Sudanese diaspora in Canada? So,
Well, I find a lot of similarities with the South Sudanese diaspora in Canada, United States, and Australia. And when I learn about what's happening in Canada, I mean, in the States, which I've learned a lot from, watching you ladies, and I listen to news with what's going on in Australia with the South Sudanese, I see the same challenges with, the gangs and mental health issues and the suicides and all these things. So I don't see much difference. It's basically the same, and it breaks my heart because it's like, oh, everywhere there's so much struggle in our community, so it's very heartbreaking. Um, I guess some of the things that I learned in my counseling, um, a lot about anxiety and depression. I think one of the most valuable things I learned from my classes is just understanding that a lot of things have a root cause, and just understanding that there's a root cause to a lot of the anxiety and the depression that people feel, and that it's important to get to the roots of these things. And this is what a counselor can help you do, right? They can go a little deeper with you, ask questions about things that maybe you never thought about, um, and having a better understanding of how the traumas that you've been through, the challenges that you've been through, affect the way you think, affect your reactions in certain situations, you know, and even affect the type of people that you're drawn to, even if they're not good people for you. But it's like, why am I drawn to these type of people, right? So, I mean, it's a long, big subject, but I think this is something that is very important, is just like understanding the root cause of things. And I really value learning that and going deeper into that. And I guess another thing would be having a better understanding of like family dynamics and how they affect us and things like that, and just how important that the core, the family is, and how the things that we experience as we grow up can just from parents alone can impact us for so many years, even into like our older years, into our adult years, so it's very, very interesting. It would be definitely a whole discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, so just unpacking certain things that happen to
Yeah.
us.
Hmm.
Love it. Christine, do you want to close out or final thoughts? Do you want to do final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts for sure. First of all, thank you, ladies, for staying longer than intended. I very much
Oh, no worries.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And all of the technical difficulties, we finally figured out the issue with the which you handle now. Is just making sure everyone's mics are muted. But I think we have comment from Hannah. She said, with Black women having to work extra hard to become successful, how do you navigate a career choice that does not require education? Example, theater business, especially if your parents may not support it. And I'll let that be our final thoughts question, and we can close out if anyone wants to take that on.
With Black women having to work extra hard to become successful, how do you navigate a career choice that does not require education, theater business, especially if your parents may not support it? Ooh,
Yeah, it's tough.
that's tough.
I would lean back, like I said, to community. And, your community is not necessarily the people that, your family or who look like you, right? So if you're interested in theater, surround yourself with your theater and arts people. Like my daughter is an arts person and she loves theater and she's joined like all those clubs. So she has all these theater friends. If you, or business, right? Like check out your local entrepreneur activities, right? There's so many activities that entrepreneurs are doing. You can meet somebody, you can, enlarge your networking space. But back to, like, I think most important, it's putting yourself out there, right? And like sometimes we're so fixated on that, the institutional educational, the sense of the regular education, but man, education comes in so many different forms, especially with like job training, right? You can just, meet some other entrepreneurs and learn from them and absorb everything. So community, and community who are doing the same thing and who will support your dreams.
Yeah. And I think with me and Christine doing Ladies of Sosa, which is, it's a podcast. You don't have to go to school to start a podcast. But what we did is um, really connect with people that have like the expertise that maybe we don't have. And one of those people is Nyatan, she's here, and she's in marketing. She was in marketing, and she's really good at what she does. And what we like just get a lot of knowledge from her as far as like how should we structure this? How should we structure episodes? How should we structure the future of Ladies of Sosa? And she kind of breaks that down. We are good at facilitating conversations, but there's so many other things that we're weak at. So really figuring out what your weaknesses are, especially when you want to start something that's outside of like going to school, and that can you can be taught in school, is figuring out what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are. And if you know your strengths, then do that. And then your weaknesses, delegate to other people, hire other people, or reach out to people who are willing to help. And we have, if you don't have the money to reach out to people, or pay people, reach out to your friends. Sometimes your friends are like have really like, I have Elisa's really good at organizing. She's here too. She's a great at organizing, so she organizes a lot of things for us. She's been working on like organization. And so just really knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then delegating certain things or outsourcing certain things that you're not good at to other people, and networking. So always networking for me. That's like my number one. But yeah, Blair said, thank you so much for the conversation, ladies. It was really helpful. Yes, we hope it was helpful. We hope that, we at least um provided some resources, and we hope that you guys are able to reach out to Diana and Nook for anything that you guys need. And Manuel said, ultimate, oh, sorry. Christine, you want to read that?
Sure.
Okay.
Emmanuel said, I think we're both clicking on it at the same time. He said, ultimately, you are your own career manager. Take ownership of your career path and actively plan for your future. Exposure matters, and if a career projection is untenable, jump the ship. Thank you. I agree, Emmanuel. And thank you guys for everyone who stayed to the end of this live. We so appreciate you guys sticking that out through the whole thing with all of the technical difficulties. And thank you to our beautiful panelists, Deanna. You guys are real troopers for sticking it out as well. We so appreciate you. So if you guys have anything you want to promote, or any final thoughts, or anything that you want to say to our audience, this is your time.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to go back to that question that Hannah had asked. Um, this is just a thought, it's just an idea. But I think when it comes to careers like theater, business, and podcast content creation, sometimes these things can take a long time. So it doesn't hurt, like, even if you're not necessarily passionate about like education, to have maybe being open to like maybe something that takes a year, like I know there's some like receptionist stuff and medical office assistant kind of things that are, you can do for 2 years to kind of give you something stable you can stand on while you build that theater business or career. And your parents will probably be very happy that, you have something, even if it's just like a 1 year certificate or 2 year kind of thing. So it kind of meets both sides. They'll feel good that you have something that can give you stable income, and you will feel good that you can pursue the things that you're really passionate about, and it'll be good to have that to fall back on as well, something like that. So just a thought. Just a thought.
I love that, and I agree. And can you guys give us information that like any way that the audience can reach out to you if they need any resources, or would just like to ask questions? Let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on my Instagram. It's NOK underscore Nora NORA underscore knock. So knock Nora knock. And if you message me, DM me, and then I'm happy to share my personal email and go from there. But just connect with me on Instagram, and we can share more details there.
Diana, go ahead.
Yes, for me, you can find me on my YouTube channel. I don't have any other social media, so it's A Heart for Home. So A Heart for Home, spelled like that, lowercase, all together. And over there, if you look in the information section, you'll find my email address. So if you have any questions, if you have, just send me an email and I'll definitely would love to get back to you.
I would have typed it out if I was using my laptop, but I'm on my phone, so I'm just trying to figure
Yeah.
out how to use this on my phone. But
No
we'll
worries.
put down the information.
Yeah, no,
Yes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to Ladies of Sosa. And God said, thank you so much, ladies. I've learned so much from you all. And that means the world to us, but that's exactly why we wanted to have this conversation. We wanted to provide the resources or start the conversation as far as how the challenges of South Sudanese women building careers, starting careers, and navigating careers in the diaspora. So we're so happy that you took something away from it. And we want to thank you guys again, Nock and Deanna, for joining us. You took, I know we're all so busy, and you guys took an hour and a half of your day to come and speak to us. So we really appreciate that. Me and Christine, thank you so much. Honestly,
yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you, ladies. I loved it. It's so much fun, and for me, it was a very enjoyable hour and a half. So I didn't lose anything. Yeah, thank you. And it was nice to meet you, Nock.
Yes, very nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me.
In fact, Nock is my cousin.
Oh, yeah.
We're related. Literally, we found this out. Well, I found this out the last episode. She's my Auntie Julia's daughter, and Auntie Julia is my dad's sister. So we're real cousins, not the Sudanese cousins.
Yes.
You know, we're real cousins. So just FYI. But yeah, thank you guys so much again. We love you guys. We're gonna be in the studio this Saturday recording an episode. In the meantime, stay tuned for the next episode of Ladies of Sosa, and we love you all so much. Bye-bye.